everyone, it's Shel from Paper Rock TO Studio, and today I'm sharing with you days 10 and 9, 9 and 10, of the 31 witches that I'm going to make in the month of October. This is the Inktober challenge, and I'm using the prompt list from hashtag 31witches2 from Ochi Brochi. And they're just all different types of witches. For day 9, the prompt is Medusa. I'm not sure Medusa is a witch. I think Medusa is a monster because she has snakes for hair, which is weird and and scary. And also, if you look at her in her eyes, you turn to stone, which is not good. That would not be good. So, I guess she possesses magic. So that would be what makes her a witch, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, it's their prompt, not mine. So I'm going to go with it. So I wanted to practice profiles because of the few profiles that I have drawn, I've done it very poorly. I don't get the angles right. And it makes it look like my person in profile has a gigantic jutting out chin. And so I wanted to practice. So I looked at a reference photo of a profile, a girl in profile, so that I could try to figure out how to get the nose to come out and then get the chin to go back in. And I think I did pretty well. I erased a lot and kept looking at the photo until I feel like the forehead looks okay, the nose looks okay, and then the chin looks okay. Yeah. Then I spent a ridiculous amount of time drawing snakes. Not any specific kind of snake, just a generic viper. I wasn't sure what to do with the negative space. I wasn't sure if she has hair existing within the snakes or if her hair is entirely snakes. So I struggled a little bit with that, but I'm just drawing. It turned out cute in the end, and I don't think she's particularly hideous. I did want to do something weird with the eyes because, you know, that whole staring at you and turn you into stone thing. So something that just totally creeps me out whenever I see it on TV or something is when people have completely white eyes as if they're blind or something. And I mean, I know it's just contacts, but yuck. How creepy is that? So I decided to leave her eyes with no irises or pupils to try to make them that weird staring thing. Ugh, gross. Don't like it. Creeps me out. And then I watch Ink Masters, and there's usually some sort of a traditional tattoo where they have to use a snake, or maybe it's Japanese, and they're constantly criticizing the way people draw snakes and is it anatomically correct the way it twists and turns. And so I was trying to make my snakes maybe not be realistic, but at least connect in the right places so that it wouldn't be like, oh, they're not anatomically correct. But they're probably not. But I wanted to show the underside that has different scales, sometimes just for more visual interest, but I didn't know for sure how to twist and turn them, but I think it's okay. It's okay. At this point, still not sure what I'm doing about the hair. I decided to ignore the problem eventually. So once I got all that ink dry and erased it, then I realized that she didn't have a back shoulder. So I drew that in with pen, and then I'm going back over with a thicker nib to make some of the lines thicker and some thinner so that it has more interest, and also to make sure that all the lines connect. Sometimes when you're inking a drawing, you are trying to go over the lines that you've drawn with the graphite, but you don't make the line connect completely, and it's hard to tell when you're just using the pen over the pencil because the pencil might connect but the pen doesn't. So then you have to go back through and check it. I also decided that all that stone making in her eyes must make her eyes weep. Maybe she's crying, so I added a few tears. It also just looks interesting on her face. So then I decided to use these Japanese watercolors. They're they're the ones that are almost like a gouache or a tempera paint. They're pretty opaque. So I decided to mess around with them. I squirted them with water to get them all activated, and then I just started painting using a high quality watercolor brush and a lot of water. And I make her skin pretty dark. There's not a peach color in this set. This is traditional Japanese. So I used the kind of sienna color and then just made it, I used a lot of water to make it lighter in places. And then I decided, okay, what color am I going to make the snakes? I don't know. What color? I don't know. What are they traditionally? And I decided, you know what? I'm going to make colorful snakes because she doesn't have to be ugly or depressing or scary. She can have crazy, colorful snakes. Why not? The funny thing is that when it gets done, I kind of think she looks like a jester, like maybe she has a crazy jester hat on. But no, those are snakes. Don't let them bite you. This is pretty fun. It did take a really long time though. I think it took me about an hour and 20 minutes to draw and paint this, which is ridiculous. I mean, I really shouldn't be taking that long on a daily challenge, but you know, I had to think about stuff, I had to look at stuff, I had to erase a lot. So I'm happy with it. Happy the way it turned out. I probably should have went back over the lines when I was done painting because this paint is a little bit opaque. So it does, you know, take away from the lines, but I was done. I was done at that point. I'm not going to go back over it. So good enough. So as far as the hair in between, I ended up just kind of putting some dark spots in there, and you can extrapolate as the viewer whether that's hair or whether it's the background or I don't know. I didn't feel like drawing in hair. And then I did a little bit of splatters because I just thought it would look better with splatters. Um, yeah, pretty fun little jester Medusa. It's pretty funny. So here's where I'm like making the eye weird. And I do add a few little highlights with my white Posca pen because that's what I do with white Posca pens. I end up making all the snakes have white eyes too. Creepy. So that's it for day 9. And here comes the close-up so you can see what it looks like. Interesting and weird and I don't know, maybe not scary enough. So day 10 prompt was a zombie or Frankenstein witch. And I decided to do Frankenstein. I've always thought that the Frankenstein monster is interesting as a concept. First, trying to bring something back to life that is already dead, and also the idea that someone could be so arrogant as to think that they could do that. I don't know. It's an interesting story and very, you know, timeless and classic. So I decided to make a girl Frankenstein's monster that is also a witch, basically. And so I put the classic bolts in her neck that where you shoot the electricity to bring her to life. And then on her face, I stitched her together from different people's parts. make the electricity bolts there. Again, drawing with my mechanical pencil that has 2B lead in it, graphite. This is a pretty simple drawing in comparison to some of the other ones I've done. It's not as small or intricate because it's just a face and a head. You know, I'm working in 4.5 by 4.5 pages. So this one was a lot easier than some of the other ones, but I think it turned out really cute. And for the inking, I started out with the brush and made some very heavy lines first, and then went back in and filled in with the smaller nibs on the inking of this one, because it does have a lot bigger spaces for me to do. So I think this is the large bullet tip nib, so I didn't have to use the teensy tiny ones. Although I did use the extra small for the stitching because I didn't want them to be ginormous stitches hanging out of her face. I wanted her to still look cute or pretty or whichever you want to say. I didn't want her to be scary. I didn't want her to be, you know, a true monster, because it's not her fault that somebody decided to take it upon themselves to stitch her together and bring her back to life with electricity. I mean, you know, she doesn't have to be scary or ugly. Also, I did make the eyes and mouth disproportionate because I was trying to go with the idea that they're sewn from pieces of different people, and so it wouldn't all be symmetrical. So one eye is a lot larger than the other one, and then her face, her mouth has a little bit of a twist to it. You see what I was doing there. And for the coloring, I decided to just go with acrylic paint. There was some watercolor in the background that had splattered from the other side, and I didn't really want it to affect what I was doing, so I just decided to use acrylic paint, which will cover up pretty much anything. Oh, and I did make a moon in the background and make it look like it's night, like, you know, she's just been brought to life and she's running like the Frankenstein monster did. Hopefully the villagers are not chasing her, because she's kind of cute, I think. I think she's cute. I don't think she needs to be chased. But I guess the idea that she's not dead and has been brought back to life is probably pretty horrific, and maybe, I don't know. Nothing good can come from that, I don't think. So I wanted a black hat, but I didn't want it to blend into the background. I used Prussian blue, which is a pretty dark color, actually. I was thinking it was a lighter color than it was, but it wasn't Payne's Gray. It was Prussian blue, but it was very dark. So I decided to use the grays and then mix it in with a little bit of carbon black for the shadows on her hat. And it gives the idea that it's black while being actually gray, if you know what I mean. And then I just blended some Quin Magenta, some of that leftover Cad Orange, and then white, oh, and some yellow ochre to make different skin tones. A darker, warmer skin tone, and then a very pale, pinkish skin tone, and then the one in the middle is quite yellow, a lot more of the yellow undertones, to try to not make them so different that it's not a cohesive image, but yet make it different enough so that it appears as if it's been sewn from different people's skin tones. Of course, when you use acrylic paint, it does mess up your lines. It goes over the lines and messed it up, but I try to keep it within, you know, like coloring within the lines, but that doesn't necessarily always happen. So I'm using a black fine tip Posca pen to go back over some of the lines where the paint has gotten onto the line. And I'm also filling in the hair. I wanted it to be that crazy, you know, if you had black hair and you got struck by lightning, maybe a section of your hair would turn white, supposedly. And I wanted to give it like that black and white look. So it was easier to do that with the pen than it was to try to do it with the paintbrush, because I would have just made a big mess. I didn't have a small enough paintbrush to do it. So I just did it with the pen instead, and then also going over the lines. I made one of her eyes very dark, and then the other one is blue. And I used a little bit of silver in the dark eye to give it a highlight, using some white pen as well to give highlights. So if you've enjoyed this video, please remember to give me a thumbs up at least, and leave me a comment if you'd like to, so I know that it was you who was here. Share it with your friends on Facebook or on Pinterest, and of course, if you haven't, subscribe and turn on your notifications so that you'll actually get a notification if I put out a video. That's it for me. Thanks. Bye-bye.